So something interesting happened the other day, and it has to do with the Switch 2 and its launch and Welcome Tour, which is that title that many of us saw when the live stream was going on. And I was watching, and I said, okay, cool. I guess this is a packing game. And then at the bottom, it goes, is to be available to purchase separately as a digital release. And that, I think a lot of us saw that. I looked at other live streams too, it wasn't just me, and we're like, oh, that's weird. That was the first indication that it was something kind of felt off with some of the pricing stuff from Nintendo, and it was certainly a bit of a slap of reality there that it was not going to just be included, because it felt like they were just showing us an interactive manual kind of for the system. It's a way to introduce you. It's called Welcome Tour, but it's $10. Anyway, there was a call out, you could kind of say here, from a certain person who is really looking back now 20 years almost to the Wii and how that did with its pack-in title. But I gotta say, I don't know if it's completely comparable to the situation now, but we'll get into that here today. So if you guys enjoy the video, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. So this is posted up over on VGC. They did a very good job putting all this together, but Reggie Fils-Aimé seemingly weighs in on the Switch 2 Welcome Tour debate by highlighting the success of Wii Sports. Now, as I say here, the former Nintendo boss subtly commented on the Switch 2's lack of a pack-in game. And basically what happened here, he put out this message on his Twitter X account, just highlighting the story of Wii Sports pack-in. And the idea here is that originally it was not going to be a pack-in title. Wii Sports was going to be a separate thing that you would buy. And look, they did go on to sell it eventually, like on its own, I remember. But a lot of people remember the Wii because of Wii Sports. Here we actually have a quote here. This is again on that IGN podcast, saying it's an understatement to say that Mr. Miyamoto pushed back. During the development of Wii and Wii Sports, the goal was we wanted the system to be attractive to not only the most active players, but to new players. We saw Wii Sports as the way to be able to do that. In the Americas and in Europe, Wii Sports was packed in, but it was not in Japan, which created a bit of a test market. It was obvious in the markets that Wii Sports was packed in. Wii became much more of a phenomenon. Wii Sports became much more of a phenomenon. And, I mean, look, Wii Sports is, I think for many people out there, the most memorable game in the Wii generation. I mean, it just was. When you got the Wii, you turned it on, Wii Sports was there with it, and it showed you how this weird remote thing worked. Look, I can't even undersell how strange it was when Nintendo showed up. We were coming off of the GameCube, which, granted, didn't do well. It definitely didn't light the world on fire. It made everyone look at it and go, wow, this is incredible from Nintendo. It technically sold the worst, I think, out of the three. It was basically on par with the original Xbox. And that was Microsoft's first shot at the console market. Nintendo's been doing it for a while, right? And the GameCube just didn't work out for them. So the pivot to the Wii, specifically the Wii Remote, when they showed up on stage with that thing, was weird. It was mind-blowing, and not even in a great way, because everyone looked at it and said, that's a TV remote. How are we going to play games with that thing? And they start talking about the motion controls, and once again, we were like, that doesn't sound great. It sounded weird. And we just couldn't really wrap our heads around it right away. So Wii Sports made a ton of sense to pack in, even though, yes, they probably could have sold it separately, but the idea was to introduce you to the function of the Wii. I don't think that exists here with Welcome Tour, because the Switch 2 is iterative, as in, we already kind of know the core concept with the hybrid model, and that was the big thing for the Switch coming off of the Wii U. They were able to really get the entire vision that they had for the Wii U. It's pretty clear they kind of wanted the Switch for the Wii U, but the technology just wasn't there yet. However, the Switch was able to accomplish it, and now we're off and running here with the Switch 2 that's just the Switch, but I mean, it kind of is almost like kind of the Switch Pro, technically, but starting up a whole new generation with a system that is, according to NVIDIA, 10 times more powerful. You don't really need a Wii Sports to demonstrate that necessarily. In that case, the games can demonstrate that. Cyberpunk running at its current performance is already impressive enough, but then you see some of the other games that are being compared across the board with Final Fantasy VII, Street Fighter VI just has very good examples right now, and it's sort of selling people on the idea that, okay, this is a very capable device. I understand what it is. The Wii did not have that. the Wii was weird again, and it wasn't even that much more powerful at all than the GameCube. You had more RAM and stuff, and that was fine, but it wasn't the generational leap that you saw from the Xbox 360, or PS2 to the PS3. So they had to try to sell themselves on this revolutionary concept, which is great because it's called obviously the Revolution, but of motion controls taking center stage. And Wii Sports did that really well. It had to be a pack-in game, though, to do that, because then you'd be asking people to go out and spend even more money, and that tied into the idea that the Wii is cheaper and it provides an experience that is more centered around the casual market, and it brought the casual market in droves. Unfortunately for Nintendo, the casual market didn't really buy a lot of the Zeldas necessarily, or any of the smaller quote-unquote niche games, those series that they brought in for the Wii. It just didn't work out as well as the Switch. That isn't necessarily something that's all about the motion controls and trying to get your grandparents playing the system. No, that actually leaned more into the core audience, the core gamer, and hitting them with convenience. That's the big twist for the Switch, and it works well. People, as we've seen, more than anything, will, I would say, prioritize convenience over most things. But the Wii, with Wii Sports, did well at first. The Wii then fell off a cliff, and it wasn't great. The sales cratered. It sprinted to 100 million, and then just fell off a cliff, and that was it. And a lot of that did have to do with people were content with Wii Sports. But there is something to the idea of a pack-in title adding perceived value to the product. In this case, we know right now that Welcome Tour is $10. We haven't known that the whole time. When they were first showing it, I saw some people in the chat that were like, oh, this thing's gonna be like $30 or $40. At that moment, if they stopped and said, you know what, instead, it's going to come with the system, I think many people would have looked at it and go, wow, that's like a $30 or $40 value because I've assigned that to it in my mind, when the whole time it would have been $10. But now you're thinking, wow, okay, I get a whole game that looks kind of fun and interesting, and sure, it's something I might play for an hour or two, but it's just packed in. It makes you feel like almost you got one over on the multi-billion-dollar corporation then. And in their mind, it's, okay, is it $10, or do we let the customer feel good about themselves coming into this platform we've created with what's a $10 valued game, but now they're happy, they have their system, and maybe they'll look around for more stuff to buy, because they're in a good mood after picking it up, you know? That's kind of the thing here is it worth charging $10 for it, or just throwing it into the system as a pack-in title for that goodwill and that customer experience going forward? And you know what? I think it makes a ton of sense to have that as a pack-in game, and that's why it's such a head-scratcher that it's not, but it also does then make me think of Nintendo's mentality that I believe was also described by Reggie and others, that it's, hey, if we made it, we're going to sell it. Like, that's kind of it. We have value to it. We're going to sell this thing. And it's also kind of the mentality they have for their games, where they just don't drop in price. They stay at the full price most times, especially now with the Switch generation. Nintendo Select's out the door completely, which is awesome to have those. And no, it's still $60. And that's something they're running into right now with their Enhanced Edition games. They never dropped in price, so it's going to be $70 now because we're tacking $10 more on top of it. Whereas back in the day, Nintendo Selects, it would have been $10 on top of a $20 game. So that's just kind of Nintendo's mentality. I don't think it's really as comparable, though, because it's not as pivotal as Wii Sports, which was there really to teach you how to use the core concept of the system. Most people right now know how to hold the Switch 2 already. They know the idea of taking the Joy-Cons and using them separately. They know the grip. They know how to change it from the dock to taking it handheld. And they understand that when you go to the handheld mode, you know, you're going on 1080p or what have you. They already understand all that, so you don't really need to teach them. So it isn't necessarily as important, say, as Wii Sports, which many of us will look at as being a legendary release that was really right place, right time for Nintendo, because that system was also incredibly profitable for them. So there you go. But it was interesting to see Reggie kind of just throw that out there as, hey, you know, the pack-in title sometimes makes sense to have a title like that thrown in there and give up the $10 in this case for the game, for more of that goodwill for the consumer. But Nintendo, you got to pay $10 for that. But let me know what you guys think about this one down below in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.